The former home of the father of black history, site of West Virginia's first TV station, and a small log church which would become the state's second largest university. I'm Wayne Worth, and you're watching On the Road in West Virginia, R55 County's Cabell County. Before Cabell County would be one of our state's major population centers, this land during the 1700s was prime hunting grounds for the Native Americans, especially for the Shawnee and Mingo tribes. Now, the Ohio River during the mid-1700s made exploration to the region fairly easy, that is if you were French and had a good working relationship with the natives. However, English folks like Thomas Hannon, who came around the 1790s and by the way was the first permanent settler in what we call Cabell County today, mainly used old Indian trails which then would evolve into the James River and Kanawha Turnpike and eventually US Route 60. Other than being a port for steamboats traveling down the Ohio River and a stop along the Turnpike, the early 1800s were relatively quiet in the county. However, in 1837, a small log church which stood right behind me would end up gradually transforming the region for the next 180 years. What is today Marshall University started out as Marshall Academy. Now, it started off as a subscription school to attempt to meet the educational needs of local children, followed by a history of switching hands due to underfunding and even closing its doors due to the Civil War. After the war, the new state of West Virginia acquired the property and turned it into the West Virginia Normal School, which was a school mainly to train teachers for public education. When the first term began in 1868, there were only 25 students enrolled. Fast forward over 150 years, it's evolved into a university with an enrollment of about 13,000 with a wide range of diverse academic and nationally recognized NCAA Division I sports programs. Who would have known that a small log church on the knoll where Old Main sits today would become our state's second largest university? Now, the Civil War would bring two minor battles and a small skirmish to Cabell County, as much of the county in this region of the Ohio Valley were fiercely divided. The first battle took place in 1861 in Barbersville when a local Confederate militia and the Union Army's 2nd Kentucky Infantry clashed at a place nicknamed Fortification Hill. Though confident, many of these local Confederate militiamen were poorly trained and no match for what the 2nd Kentucky Infantry was about to throw at them, so they retreated. Later in September of 1862, Confederate General Albert Jenkins, who by the way owned a plantation in the county, made a brief stop in Barbersville in his infamous raid across our state. His raiders met up with Union cavalry from Ohio and a skirmish took place near the middle of town. The fight pretty much ended in a draw as both sides retreated. Now, the Battle of Wyandotte in November of 1861 was quite a different story. Outnumbering a local Union regiment 7-1, a Confederate cavalry force totally overwhelmed them and took captive of nearly 100 Union recruits. Now, Wyandotte was a hotbed for pro-secession, so one would imagine that many of its citizens after the Confederate victory were dancing in the streets with joy. However, the party was short-lived when a day later a Union detachment from Cerrito joined forces with several Home Guard units from Ohio and burnt most of the town to the ground. Post-Civil War, Cabell County would see some major changes economically, as a man named Collis P. Huntington would transform a stretch of farmland into what would be today our state's second largest city. Our friend Collis P. Huntington was in search of building the western terminal of his C&O Railroad, and Holderby's Landing, which was nothing more than just a stretch of farmland along the mighty Ohio, would be that place. Now, legend has it that Collis initially was strongly considering Wyandotte. However, it's been said that Collis's decision to build a western terminal in Holderby's Landing came after he was arrested for riding his horse on the town's sidewalks. Well, whether true or not, the C&O Railroad's western terminal was built at Holderby's Landing. A city named Huntington was founded in 1871, and the rest is history. The coming of the C&O Railroad immediately brought a wide range of diversified industries, as Huntington would become the center of economic supremacy in our state. Within the city's inception, it only took 20 years to go from being a farm to having over 10,000 residents. Even the county seat was moved from Barbersville to Huntington in 1887. Now, with the early economic boom in southern West Virginia, Huntington became the gateway to the coal fields as much of the coal flowed through the city to market. The place literally became a significant retail and manufacturing hub as steel, glass, and a wide range of other late 19th century and early 20th century products were produced here. Jobs were plenty as the population soared past 86,000 by 1950. The city even built a major 55-acre park in 1913 as a quality of life measure for its residents. A prominent businessman named Charles Ritter, who the park was named after, even donated an additional 20 acres for the city to expand the park. Huntington and Cabell County also became a major center for the arts with the coming of the Keith Albee Theater in downtown Huntington in 1928, Blinko Glass in 1921, and the Huntington Museum of Art in 1952, which by the way is West Virginia's largest art museum. Now becoming the state's largest city by 1950 meant needing your own TV station. And that is just what happened in 1949 as WSAZ, which was already the state's first commercial radio station, also became our state's first TV station. Today, WSAZ is still a local news station based out of Huntington and Charleston. Now, we also can't forget about the father of black history, Carter G. Woodson, who attended Douglas High School in Huntington both as a student and as a school's principal. Carter G. Woodson eventually went on to start his own publishing company in 1919 and also published his own books and journals that disseminated African American history. He even founded Black History Month, which is still recognized today. Now, the 1960s and 70s brought a lot of changes to heavy industry nationwide, and those changes would bring tough times to the Ohio Valley. The sharp decline in coal jobs in our southern West Virginia counties due to mechanization and the beginning of outsourcing steel production really had a negative impact on Huntington. Since 1960, the city's population has declined by 35,000. However, the county's population has only declined by 13,000 since 1960, mainly due to the construction of Interstate 64, which over the years has stimulated economic and residential growth in towns such as Barboursville and Milton. Matter of fact, Barboursville's population has doubled since 1960, and even the state's largest shopping mall is located within the city limits. Now, Huntington during the past 10 to 15 years has definitely redefined itself economically with the building of Pullman Square and Kinetic Park, the expansion of the healthcare industry, strengthening its partnerships with Marshall University, and significant investments in the redevelopment of downtown. Most importantly, what keeps this place West Virginia's second largest city are the people here. Their creativity, their vision, and of course their pride. Something that all of us West Virginians share for the place we love and call home. I'm Wayne Worth, and until next time, always remember, what we value and hold important to our lives today came from events that happened yesterday, and it's when we begin to understand the events of yesterday that we fully embrace today, which makes tomorrow become less of a mystery.